So we've been using the subject pronoun on in some sentences and examples, and I want to make sure that you understand what it means because it's a little bit tricky. It doesn't necessarily have one single meaning, like the way that je means I, or il means he, or nous means we. On actually can represent kind of three different ideas. Now, when I translate on in English, I always simply say one. One, not as in the number one, but one is in the just kind of like that idea. And the subject pronoun on is always conjugated like the il or el form of the verb. So the verb that goes along with it is always going to have the same spelling as it would if it were with il or el. But even though il and el represent one single person, that's not exactly how on works. On can represent several of different ideas, and many of them are actually plural subjects, so they represent more than one person. So the first meaning of on that I want you to know is that on means someone, as in an unknown or unidentified person or people. So for example, the sentence on me téléphone would mean someone is calling me. Like we could translate it as one is calling me. The me before the verb means me. But the idea is I don't know who that person is because if I knew who they were, I would just say their name. If I don't know who they are, I use on instead. So we use this occasionally to mean someone. This is probably actually the least common of the uses. The other two here are how we use them most often. So another meaning for on is referring to people in general. So not a specific group of people, not one specific person, but just people in general. So our example for this is on parle français en France, which means one speaks French in France, or really just people speak French in France. And again, even though people is clearly plural, more than one person, on always uses the singular verb form. So this gets used on a very regular basis, on meaning people in general. But another meaning for on that's quite common, especially in conversation, is on is simply a replacement for the nous form. It's also used to mean we. So rather than using the nous form and that ons ending on the verb, quite often in conversation, in informal conversation with friends or family, the French will replace the nous form with the on form. So an example would be Sophie et moi, on va au centre commercial samedi. Sophie and me, we are going to the mall on Saturday. So rather than saying nous allons, we say on va because it's just a little bit shorter, a little bit easier. It's great for texting because it's fewer letters to type. So this is probably the most common usage, that one that's the replacement for the nous form. This is probably the second most common, that meaning for people in general. And then another usage that you'll sometimes see is on meaning someone, an unidentified or unknown person. So I will always translate on into English as one, but understand that that idea of one can actually mean three different things.